Hey everybody, welcome back to the garden. So, there's a pretty famous saying in permaculture, which is, the problem is the solution. And what are they trying to get at here? They're trying to get at, basically, trying to get you to invert your thinking. So the example that Bill Mollison gave is, let's say you have a garden and you have a lot of slugs, and you say to yourself, gee, I have a slug problem. There's way too many slugs in my garden. They're out of control. So, thinking about the problem is the solution would be to think not that I have too many slugs, it's that I don't have enough ducks. And ducks love slugs, so they take care of your problem for you. And now you've gained an additional yield out of the system, and you've improved things. So, I've done some observations because I've been at this site now for 6 years, and I come from a background that I grew up in New Jersey, and I moved to Pennsylvania for a while. So I've been gardening kind of like this is the Northeast. And you can see, look at the grass here. It's crunchy, it's brown. Yesterday we had our first rain in 59 days, and it was 1/10 of an inch. So summer drought is a given here. This is cool Mediterranean. It normally dries out for 3 months here, and sometimes even longer. So I started thinking about this. Okay, the problem is the solution. It dries out every summer here consistently. Why are we gardening like it's the Northeast and watering everything, getting a really big watering bill, and just driving ourselves crazy? Basically like fighting gravity here. The land wants to dry out. You can see in between here in the beds, it's quite dry. And then in the beds, things are doing okay, but they're a bit sad because, well, it's pretty darn dry, and you can hear the ground kind of crunching under my feet. See, everything's wilting. I did water them this morning, and the water is, for whatever reason, not sticking around. Probably because I don't have enough carbon in the soil. I've been mulching these spots for years. So I'm fighting gravity here, and I'm starting to think, okay, I've done some observations on the site. What shows up naturally as a weed every summer? Well, thistles show up. Pigweed, which is a member of the amaranth family. What else? Well, bindweed, which I tried to substitute and do sweet potatoes with, but our nights here are too cold. It normally cools off to it has a very stable pattern of going up to 80, 85, then going down to 60 or 55 overnight. So that's a little bit too cold for sweet potatoes. They like it warmer. All right, so that didn't work. So what can we swap out for thistles? Well, I started growing from seed, growing artichokes. They're over here. They're looking pretty good. Here's one. Looks like maybe some slugs got to it. It's still okay. Here's another one, doing okay. And then here's another one. They're doing pretty good. So thistles naturally thrive here in the summer. Pigweed, which is a member of the amaranth family, shows up every summer. As soon as it starts getting hot, pigweed starts showing up everywhere. So I went online, and I started thinking, instead of fighting the drought, the drought is the problem, I started thinking, why not work with the drought? So what can we plant that likes drought? And nothing really likes drought, but plants have a couple different solutions to deal with drought. They can avoid the drought, they can tolerate the drought, and I think the third one is I actually don't remember. But the two main ones I remember off the top of my head are avoid the drought, which is start in the spring, get all your growing done early, set seed before the drought shows up, and then senesce or die back. Tolerate the drought, which a lot of trees are good at. They put down deep roots, or they have a wax over their leaves, or a cactus can breathe at night instead of during the day. So yeah, I'm thinking instead of avoiding the drought, lead into the drought. So I'm looking at growing amaranth next year, sorghum, which is drought tolerant or at least resistant, and I'm also thinking of overwintering things. Like I tried favas over here, and the rains almost always show up around September. It doesn't get that cold here over the winter. We got like a low of 20 over this past winter, which is considered, about as low as it gets here. And then it kind of stays above freezing and cool most of the winter and rainy. So lean into that. So I'm thinking favas, I'm thinking purple sprouting broccoli, I'm thinking anything that will overwinter fine. Like garlic does fine, onions are okay. And I'm thinking potatoes in the spring, and then sorghum, amaranth, and millet, which sorghum can tolerate the drought. Amaranth, I think, can probably tolerate the drought. And millet, I don't know if it's super drought tolerant, but I read it probably is, so I'll give that a shot too. So the garden's gonna look very different next year. Like, there's not gonna be any squash. I'm getting rid of the tomatoes. I might do some like pole beans and peas, maybe. These are all drying out, and you can see the bindweeds going crazy. So all the squash here is going to be gone, and this is all going to be like grain. Millet, amaranth, sorghum, things that can tolerate the drought. And then over the summer, like if I get them started in the spring, which is in the summer, I might have to just like water them a little bit and then just leave them alone. And then they'll naturally do their thing, because they're used to drought. They know how to deal with drought, and I'll have a much lower water bill. I think this is going to be a good combination. You gotta observe your site, and you have to garden in an appropriate way that doesn't fight the conditions that are naturally occurring on your site. So I think that's basically my thoughts for now. I've already purchased the seeds from Adaptive Seed Company. They're a local seed provider. They grow things that grow well here. They're in Oregon. And we'll see what happens. So I think probably next month, because it's now August, I will start purple sprouting broccoli. I'll start the fava beans over here, and then we'll let them overwinter. And then in the spring, we'll do the potatoes, because they can go in like March and soak up most of the rain while it's still raining until May when it dries out. And then in May, when it warms up, do the sorghum, amaranth, millet, and then just let it coast. And then, the trees, they're putting down deep roots. They're fine. Like, I don't water these trees all that much. And look how many pears they have on there. And it's loaded. They're doing good. I'm very happy with them. So, like over time, same thing. Over time, these are gonna get a little bit wider. There's gonna be more shade in the row. So I got a tree here, tree there, tree there. So trees back here, they're gonna widen. It's gonna be more shade in the row. So over time, this is gonna shrink as well, but for the time being, the spot in between the trees is very dry, and I'm going to lean into it next year and see what happens. So hopefully the birds don't decimate all the things that I grow next year, because I know millet and amaranth are a pretty big bird favorite. So that could be a potential downside of this strategy, but I think it would be a good idea to garden in a way that saves water instead of spends tons of water. And yeah, we'll see what happens. So that's it. Try to think about in your own situation. The problem is the solution. Invert the problem. Try to think of it from the reverse and see where that leads you. Sometimes it ends up giving you an unusual solution that works better than what you had previously come up with. All right, that's it. Happy gardening.